the next time you get to do this is half a year from now. Do it now. Like, just go. So I think that really helps. I think Truett's phrase, "it's just pain," is legendary. Just the whole, like, yeah, this is it's such a small percentage of your life lived on a marathon course. Like, the amount of pain you endure is intense, and it's a sufferfest. It's just so small in the comparison of how many hours you live in your lifetime. It's like, this is what you've been training for. This is what you want. Do it now.
That was Eric Floberg today on the Running Effect podcast. I'm your host, Dominic Schluter. I'm thrilled you've clicked on today's episode. It's a little bit of a different one. A lot of my conversations, as I'm sure you know if you're a returning listener, are not interview-based, but a little more formal, a little more I'm having that guest on for the first time, recapping their accomplishments, their backstory. Well, Floberg has been on the podcast back in 2023, where we documented his upbringing in the sport of running and a lot of like more serious subjects. Today's conversation is a discussion between two friends. It's a really fun one. We talk smack, as I'm a Packers fan, he's a Bears fan. We talk about the BPN, last man standing race, Floberg's thoughts on getting into ultramarathons. We talk about his work-life balance, being a dad, a husband, a runner, a filmmaker, a business owner, all the things. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. This is perfect for your next run because you're a fly on the wall on a conversation with two friends. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, share it with a friend, a teammate, someone who you think would find value and benefit from it. Also, give us a 5-star review. It'll take 5 seconds out of your day. And give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to podcasts so you never miss another episode. I appreciate you all. The podcast is crushing it. As of recording this, we are number 33 on Spotify's charts for top sports podcasts in the US. So let's keep the momentum rolling. The easiest way we do that, as I just said a second ago, share it with a friend, share it with everyone you know. I'm so passionate about this sport and telling the stories of those within it. I love you guys. I appreciate you all. And I hope you all enjoy this conversation with the man of the hour, Mr. Eric Floberg. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Floberg is back on the podcast. How you doing this afternoon, man?
I'm doing great, man. Great to see you again. Stoked to chat again.
Good to see you. I think we talked, when would it have been? December 2023? I don't think you've been back since then.
Dude, yeah, I'm terrible with dates and times and memory. I have the worst memory on the planet. So
I think
that sounds right.
And I remember
that's a long time ago.
It was. I think it came out December 28th. And I believe at the end of that conversation, you talked about taking your son to a Bears game and what that meant to you. I'm sure the Packers won. I was talking to Tony about this. Go Packers. How do we feel about the Bears' chances this year? Because I don't see any hope for them. I think it's just going to be another 2-0 year again for the Packers.
Nah, dude. No, it is. The tides are shifting, and Caleb Williams is going to take us to the promised land. And we just completely revamped our entire O-line. We got a new stud tight end who's hopefully going to be healthy by the season. But I mean, now we got Johnson as head coach. He was with the Lions. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least. But they showed signs of, Caleb showed great signs of a rookie quarterback last year. So I'm excited for the future.
I just disagree. Taking my Packers bias aside, do you genuinely think Caleb Williams is a good fit? I think he's a terrible quarterback. No. I think he's terrible. I think they should. I don't know what the system.
He's not terrible.
No,
he's not terrible. He needs a new O-line. That O-line was garbage. If you actually look at his stat line for the season, it was pretty impressive.
Really?
Given his circumstances. Absolutely.
Dude, I feel like when I watched him, I was watching a game with my brother, and I think we both commented, we were like, we've never seen someone so bad as what we're watching. You could accredit some of it to the offensive line, but he was open on many of the throws I was watching, and he was just like overthrowing them, underthrowing them, and I was like, you don't know how to throw a ball. And I also think, and this was so confusing to me, why he was the first pick, I think. He had a Heisman season, right? Sorry, people who are only listening about running. Well, this is just, you'll enjoy it. Hopefully it makes the run go by fast. Heisman season, right? And then the next year, he absolutely shits the bed. And I think his trajectory has only gone downward. And I think he's such a prideful guy that after that Heisman season, he just hasn't been back. He thinks he's way better than he is.
We're just going to go ahead and see how the season goes because, as of now, Caleb Williams is undefeated at Lambeau Field, and the Bears are 1-0 against the Packers in 2025. So I'm sorry, man.
Dude, I think that that was a botched game, and the Packers still made the playoffs. Okay. So
and then lost in the first round miserably.
Dude, here's the thing. I don't know the pack. Jordan Love's interesting because I think he was so good 2 years ago, and then last year he fell off. So I'm a little worried, but I'm glad we took a wide receiver. I mean, and this is an offensive line issue, but I love this. Williams was sacked 68 times during the season, leading the NFL. Well, some of this can be attributed. Well, some of this can be attributed to offensive line struggles. Williams was directly responsible for 15.5 of these sacks due to holding the ball too long or poor pocket awareness. I love this.
That's what percentage? That's like 20%.
That's still a lot. 15 sacks is still a lot. His deep pass accuracy was notably poor, with only 32.8% of his deep throws deemed catchable, the lowest rate recorded between 2021 and 2024. That's what I mean when I'm like...
But the issue is,
ready for this? Let me go on. Williams struggled under defensive pressure, completing only 47% of his passes and recording the highest turnover-worthy play rate among his draft class when pressured.
This is true, but he also had to do exactly what Eberflus told him to do, and Eberflus got fired in the middle of the season, the first time in Bears history since World War II. So, I mean, we're going to take it with a grain of salt. We're going to see what Johnson does, and if he's going to let him do his thing a little bit more this year. I digress. Again, we're just going to see what happens, Dom. Okay? We're going to see what happens.
Let's do like a
year.
mid-season podcast. We'll become an NFL podcast halfway through.
Sounds great.
Who are you proud of
with the Cubs
for Chicago?
right
Yeah, so you're a Cubs fan. This is good. I'm a Cubs fan, believe it or not. I have a weird...
Dude, all you Chicago sports fans who are Packer fans on the side just are some special type of person.
Do you want to hear the trajectory was... My dad grew up in Wisconsin, my mom grew up in Pennsylvania. So the bad thing was the year the Packers won the Super Bowl, I was actually cheering for the Steelers. So I'm always on the wrong side of history. Became a Packers fan. And then I've never really followed MLB too closely. I just didn't growing up. But I have cousins who live in Naperville who are massive Cubs fans. They won the World Series and they bought me a ton of Cubs World Series gear. And as a kid, I was like, okay, now I'm a Cubs fan because I own Cubs. So I'm a very loose Cubs fan. I don't really follow the MLB, so don't loop me in with everyone else would be what I would say. But fun fact, and people wouldn't know this, I have two great uncles who used to play for the White Sox.
Oh, that's
Baseball's
interesting.
in my blood. Other crazy fact, I'm related very distantly to Honus Wagner, who is the most expensive baseball card of all time.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's in your blood. So maybe, yeah. I mean, but you went for running.
I did. It didn't work out well. You had gripes with my marathon. Talk to me.
No. I said I want you to run more marathons. I mean, you trained for 2 weeks, was it?
Yeah. I took 6 months off, and then I got a call, and they were like, "Do you want to run this marathon?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I did it.
Yeah.
I thought it was enjoyable.
What a way to do it.
I thought it was enjoyable. It was way easier than I thought it would be. And I think I was pleasantly surprised with how easy I ran a 3:31 or 2. I don't even remember the time off of 2 weeks in pouring rain. And I think Knoxville has like 1,200 feet of elevation gain. So it's pretty hilly.
Yeah, that's hilly.
Yeah. So I think my next goal this fall will be, I'll do like the challenge will be like 10 weeks of training to break 3. And I think I can do that. So,
okay.
Because I think if I like maxed out training, I think I could go like in the 240s. But here's the thing, Floberg, I don't want to. I'm loving the gym, man. Maybe it's the BPM taking over me. I don't know how Nick does it, but I don't think you can run peak marathon volume and build muscle or not be exhausted in the gym. So
yeah,
what's your take on that?
So all the guys that were in the gym for 10 to 15 years before they started running marathons, it's a different equation because they're just sitting on a foundation that's a mountain. Whereas people who are in your shoes and trying to build, you might struggle a lot more to keep your size with doing a marathon build. So I think that's why in the hybrid athlete realm, if you were in the gym first, it's a lot easier to maintain both versus being a runner and maintaining the running and trying to get big if that's your goal. Totally. Doing it the opposite way is much harder. As if I know. But from anecdotes and what I've experienced and seen, I think that's the case.
What I'd say to that, though, would be the opposite is also true, that the people who come from the gym struggle to get fast at running. So we're just on the other side of it.
Correct.
Yeah. Because I don't really see too many people who are like massive, even touching 232 that you've ran.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty hard. So yeah, you have to be a freak and then get down to a really low race weight for sure.
Right. I think everyone wants to do everything these days, and it's really fascinating to see. Yeah. And I think there needs to be some semblance of giving up something, because if you want to be excellent at one thing, you probably need to be all in on that one thing. So
it's true.
Where do you lie on that spectrum? Are you still all in on running?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm still very all in on the marathon specifically. And I mean, I had already, after I saw King of Moab and Max Jolliffe, his film, I had already in the back of my head, been entertaining ultra, but I assumed it would be like when I was 40, like after I'm done with marathoning. And then I saw, obviously, Last Man Standing this past weekend. Everyone was just like, I got to do that. So I don't know. I think I haven't taken a break from doing a peak spring and a peak fall marathon for 3 or 4 years now. So next year could be that cycle change where I do that race, the VPN Ultra, and wait till the fall to go for a peak marathon again.
Guess who's coming on the podcast tomorrow?
Oh, is it Kim?
Yeah.
Or Kendall?
Kim.
Oh, sick.
I think I'm his first podcast. I must be, since the race. I can't wait. I became obsessed with Kim. Kendall's great too, but something resonated with Kim early on. That's my guy. And I was just glued. I was so unproductive over the weekend.
Oh yeah. His video, I just saw it last night where he was like, I'm not good with animals. And he's like, those are pigs. There's like 4 pigs running off
But what trail. I was laughing was that was in the middle of one of the loop. Like, I'm like, how often did you pull out your phone to film yourself?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's
or just
crazy.
Like in the rain, he's like, oh, it's raining now.
So funny. I wonder
200 miles deep.
I wonder how many times he's been to the States, because he seems like fascinated with some of those elements. But
yeah, no doubt. I thought it was fascinating that in a Texas Ultra, you had 2 non-Americans duke it out to the end. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'm fascinated about, I love the storyline that the weather stopped it and that neither was going to break. They needed divine intervention. I'm going to be so honest. I think Kim was a lap or 2 away, and that's what killed me. I think he was so close to winning it. That might be a hot take. We might want to lie to ourselves and be like, it would go 75 hours. I think they were nearing the end. I think Kim had more in him. I think Kendall was slowly waning and starting to show signs. So,
but at the same time, people thought Kim was done for in some of those earlier laps
but Kim's
as well.
Kim.
So you never know if he would have rallied, Kendall would have rallied or not.
Well, did you hear? Well, this might be insider info, but I don't think it's like publicly protected. That I think Kendall, when he got in the ranch and went to the bathroom, he fainted, and they had to call 911. So that came from someone on Kim's crew who told me that. So that indicated to me he was physically at his breaking point. And Kim, I think,
and he had rhabdo too, right?
He had what?
Rhabdo.
Yeah, who's that?
Rhabdo's it's when your muscles start to basically disintegrate.
What?
And
I didn't hear that.
So rhabdomyolysis, myolysis, I don't know. Condition where damaged muscle tissue releases its contents, including myoglobin, into the bloodstream, potentially causing kidney damage and other serious complications. Yeah, so not great.
No, not fun. Yeah, so I think Kim, Kendall, if you're listening, don't let this detract you from coming on the podcast one day. But I think Kim was gonna win it. So in my opinion, as a Kim fan, I was a little like, oh, why did this happen? But I will say the amount of excitement going into next year's edition is gonna be unparalleled. Like there needs to be a documentary before race day of like them training.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they knew, and this is something I want to ask him, like, how long did you actually think you'd be out there for? Because, and I haven't talked to the BPN team, but I think people were a little shocked it went as long as it did. I think
Yeah,
people were,
I was not expecting it to
I thought
go
it'd be
that
like 36 hours max.
Same. Yeah, I thought it was going to go day and a half. So yeah, it was pretty shocking because my two oldest boys were keeping track every hour as well. They kept begging me for updates. So when we woke up after the second day, I teased them and I was like, "Oh, Kim won," and they're like, "Oh, cool, yeah." Whatever. I'm like, "Just kidding, it's still going." They're like, "What?" So it was a whole family affair, and yeah, I'm so thrilled for the whole team. Like Tony and Hope poured their heart and soul into that event, and I mean, even Tony said like he just was not expecting anywhere near this kind of publicity. Like BPN's Instagram grew by over 10%.
Yeah. Didn't they gain like 50,000 followers?
Yeah, it was
Something
absurd.
Like yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool.
And I was at the ranch, I think 10 days before. And I remember him saying like, the goal is to like make this the pinnacle ultra in the world. And I thought in the back of my head, like, that's going to take years. That's a bold statement. And obviously BPN's bold. So I wasn't shocked at that. But I think you literally could not have asked or prayed for a better first year edition, because again, now going into the second year, I mean, I wonder what the stats are on this. I don't know if an ultramarathon's ever gotten that much like outside attention and publicity. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like even Leadville every year, I don't see all these random accounts picking up on it. I don't see a random live stream getting like 20,000 views every hour on the hour. No. It's crazy.
Well, I think what's crazy is that it democratized like the idea of it to the masses. Like most people didn't know what a last man standing race was, I think, until something like this happened, where they had the media ready to go. So that's the other really fascinating part of it, is that the BPN media team, I love them dearly. It's so cool to have my connection to the filmmaking world and be connected to so many of those people on that team. They annihilated the coverage, and the fact that they were just pumping stuff out and just giving the people what they wanted, that's ultimately what made it just go absolutely psycho.
So crazy. Okay, so you next year, how long would your goal, because my thought would be, I was even thinking like maybe this is how they'll get me to actually train for running, is there's a part of me that would genuinely love to do that, and I think I'd be excellent like talking about my lack of training. Again, last November I wasn't really running. I saw a 50K ultra and I was like, this looks fun. Convinced two buddies to do it with me, and it was like technical trails, not elevation really, but very technical trails. And I did that off of like no training. And so I think I'm actually very built for ultras. I thought before the weekend, I was like, I could be very good at this next year. I watched the weekend and I was like, I would not go in trying to win. So would you go in? Yeah. What's your thought process?
Well, I mean, when Kim posts the day before the race and it's like a UFC fighter on Rogan saying he's not afraid to die, I'm like, well, I have 4 children, so I'm not necessarily in that headspace. So I definitely would need to go in with a different approach. For me, it would be something that's far more personal and something that is just me against me the entire time. And if that brings me towards the end, cool. But it's more so just exploring. It would be exploring what I'm capable of. And what's fascinating is I've literally never in one go done more than 26.2. So I just have no idea what's beyond there. And I think that'd be really fascinating after this fall build and racing Chicago to then turn it around and be like, okay, let's start going further than 26.2. Let's start going on 30-mile training runs, 40-mile training runs, overnight training runs, like that kind of vibe. That's what I'm starting to think. Like maybe I can start doing that and testing myself that way. It's really exciting to me, like thinking about those prospects and like just story in regards to that, because it's, training can get really monotonous on a filmmaking side. So to see how I do in certain conditions overnight or super long distance, or how I fuel for all that, I think could be super interesting. And it's exciting to know that something like this could be the vehicle that kind of ignites that fire finally, that it's been that distant memory, but now, or that distant idea, but now it's something that is tangible because there is a race that exists that I can get into. I don't need to get in the lottery since I'm an athlete, a BPN athlete. So Yeah, be cool.
Over under 24 hours.
I think I would go over 24.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
think we'll
I think
see?
I can.
Do you think the field will get? I don't know how the lottery system works, but I'd imagine I'm sure there's some application process for them to figure out that you're fit enough to do decent, while also getting some individuals with cool stories. I imagine next year is going to be probably way more competitive than this year. I'm sure it'll be
Yeah.
Kim and Kendall at the front, but in terms of, I think there'll probably be a handful more who make the 24-hour mark. But how competitive do you think you'd be? Because I think if you made it 24 hours this year, you were like, what, top 15, top 20? I don't think many
Yeah,
people did it. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I think just knowing me, my aerobic base, and I the biggest thing I would worry about is I really struggle with sleep or getting sleepy. Like
And real
I
quickly, that's what shocked me from this weekend. It wasn't how many miles they ran. It was the fact that they hadn't slept for 2 days. I can't wrap my head
right.
around that.
Yeah, it's so absurd. Like I do think there's a chance I have undiagnosed narcolepsy, and not like in an intense way, but like I cannot stay awake for movies at night. I will struggle on a long car ride to stay awake and drive. I'll start drifting. So I'm concerned that when I get really fatigued, I'm gonna like face plant into the trail. So I think that's what I would be most concerned about. And yeah, that's just going back to that idea of like I have to test how far I can go before that starts happening. So ideally, I would be doing it on a training run like overnight, staying up for 24 hours to see just how my body handles that. But I don't know. It's uncharted territory for sure.
Yeah, from what you know about the sport itself, what can people take away, or what did you take away from Kim and Kendall and what you know about them in terms of like, I saw both of them and I was like, neither of you look athletically that impressive. Like they just are beasts. And I think a lot of this game comes down to just your mind is different. And
Right.
that's not to say they're not remarkably fit, but if I pass them on the street, I would not think you could run for 58 hours straight. Like,
Right. That's not the ultra scene unless you're doing a competitive fast Leadville or Western States and you're Jim Walmsley or, you know, so I think in this format, like, why am I blanking on his name? Harvey, I forget his last name. He has the world record, 450 miles in the ultra in the last man standing format. And he's, I think, almost 50, if not 50 years old.
wow.
And again, it's that idea of democratizing the ability of people in the field, where it is actually really, to me, it's really impressive that these guys were really young. I think they're 24. Both of them are 24.
21.
They're
both 21.
My goodness. So, and that could just be that a lot of young people just aren't interested in the ultra game. And so maybe young people are really potentially very good at it, but it tends to be an older runner that is successful in the ultra marathon format. But it's apples to oranges, 100-mile race versus a last man standing. So yeah, to your point, I agree. Like you wouldn't look at their physique and be like, oh yeah, I don't think anyone who's really super good at ultra, you're going to look at their physique and be like, oh, they're a freak. Like most fast ultra runners, like 100-mile runners are bean poles and are like, you know, very low body fat percentage. And you can tell they're very athletic and good runners. But yeah, I think there's probably a component to fat adaptation as well, because you're fueling off of fat and not just carbohydrate here, because it is such a slow pace.
My thought about the comment about young runners not doing ultras as much, I think it's for the same reason that people like you stick in the marathon, or college runners stick in the 10K before going up to the marathon. It's because they think, and I think there's probably some science to back it, that they only have such a window of speed. And so by the time they even touch an ultra, because my thought is like, you take a Connor Mance and you have him do Jim Walmsley races, I think he'd destroy every record. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think he's just, I mean, that's what he did with the marathon. He kind of skipped the 5K, 10K scene and went straight to the marathon. So I think we just, as Americans, keep our talent in the mid distances, lower long distances, because that's how we're raised in the system of cross country and track and field through middle school, high school, college. And then it's like, okay, you're a 5K, 1500 guy. And I think the body is so adaptable and trainable. And yes, there's a difference between slow twitch fibers and fast twitch fibers. But like, again, like a Cole Hawker in the 15, like he could still run a fast marathon. Is he going to compete with Kipchoge? Absolutely not. But like, give that man enough time and he'd be pretty good. But I think we limit ourselves a lot as like, even not you yourself doing this, but you could look at your marathon and be like, oh, 232. I have no clue how this would quantify to a 100-miler. And it's like, well, stay healthy for a year and hire a coach who knows what they're doing, and you could run something equivalent. I'm very confident. That might be a hot take, but I think we're very adaptable as humans.
No, I agree with a lot of that sentiment. And I recently had a conversation with Sally McRae. And we talked at length about how the way ultra is set up now, and like given any 100-mile race, maybe not like the premier ones, obviously, but any random one, she's like, if you have, low 230 road marathon time, you're going to be competitive to podium at plenty of 100-mile races if you train the right way. So, and you have David Roche, who's, changing the game in the ultra space by doing a ton of speed work and adapting that way, heat training. I think it's super interesting because, and especially with what just happened with this race, there's going to be a lot more people who are interested in it. And when there's a lot more people interested in it, there's more money that's going to be involved, just going to make it more popular. At the end of the day, like the economics of it are going to drive it as well. If runners are running professionally and there's money to be made at certain distances, they might be more inclined to jump into that because of the popularity, because of the paycheck. And right. I would imagine that's why Mance wanted to go to the marathon. I mean, who knows? I don't know what his intentions were, but him and Clayton going to that and getting the recognition they've had, I think there's something to be said about that too.
I had a podcast earlier today. Her name's Kelsey Poulter. She's like kind of a nutrition coach, but she's got her Instagram's amazing, like super good resource for specifically young athletes around nutrition. And like you'd appreciate like wildly cinematic setup. She's got like 480K or something crazy. And we were just talking about running, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm neighbors with Connor Mance." I was like, "What?" Just like so random. It's like I know him because I look at her page. She doesn't really talk about running that much. It's mainly other sports in general. And I was like, "What?" Yeah. In terms of last man standing and the participants, do you think next? Like, I want to know how much money Goggins would have to be paid to show up. I want to know how much money Jim Walmsley would have to be. But here's the thing. I don't know if money would have to be involved. Not that BPM would do that, because the Kim and Kendall's lives are changed forever based on the exposure they just got. And that could be anyone. Whoever wins this or goes far and has a good story, I think they're going to be paid 1,000-fold. Their lives completely changed because of showing up at this event. So Goggins doesn't need that necessarily, but I think he would be a fool not to explore something like this, even at his age, for his own publicity's sake of like, yeah, you remember Kim and Kendall? And I'd love to see Goggins just start talking shit to everyone at the line. Like, we're going 4 days.
Dude, I mean, I assume he's done a last man standing format.
I don't know. I just know he's done all the ultramarathons, and I know he's done crazy stuff. Like I think he ran Badwater on a broken foot or something crazy like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I thought Truett would be top 3 for sure. And
I thought he would win potentially. I guess,
right. And one of his episodes, he did one of those 24-hour training runs. He struggled towards the end, and I think that was the first time where I was like, oh, maybe he won't be able to last to the end. And I don't know, I just saw something he posted briefly. It was like, this distance in this format will challenge your ego greatly. So it's just so strange. Like you look at someone like Truett, who's just been, I mean, he PR'd back-to-back Boston to Eugene 6 days apart with a 238 and a 234. You're like, that's a person that's built different. That just is. So And then to see him go into a format like this and not have all the gas. I mean, maybe he wasn't tapered enough or anything, but I again feel like it could be anyone's game based off of how long you're willing to suffer.
I think the problem with a lot of those guys, and I think they'd admit this to me, is they went way too hard before the race.
Yeah.
Like Zach Pogrob, I don't know if you know him, but we're pretty close friends. And he's got like 1.3 million on Instagram, one of the best writers out there. And he did 100 miles overnight in New York City 3 weeks out. And I think he would admit post-race that it was just like, that was too much. I think guys were trying to prove things to themselves in training, when in reality, with an ultra, you prove it to yourself on the day. And you just kind of have to take that leap of faith on race day, that like you can't do anything in training that would replicate. Like, it's not you're training for a 10K and you do 10 by K at 10K pace with a minute rest and you hit 10K pace and you're like, I'm ready to go. I know I can run that pace. It's like you have no conception of, there's nothing reasonable that you can do in training to indicate you could run for 56 hours, and you shouldn't do it in training. It should be like once a year and should be on race day. So I think a lot of those guys, got caught up in training too hard before. That's my take. But I could be wrong.
Again, that's what makes the story that much more interesting, because it just could be anyone.
Right.
You have no idea. Yeah.
So Goggins hasn't ran a last man standing. He's run Badwater 135, Moab 240, and Hurt 100. I love ChatGPT. While he hasn't officially entered a backyard ultra, his mental toughness and endurance suggest he would be a formidable competitor in such event. So I said, give me an answer, because sometimes it'll give you loop around answers. So give me an answer. How far would David go in a backyard ultra? That says, if David Goggins entered a backyard ultra last man standing race, it's highly likely he would go extremely far, well over 200 miles, possibly into the 300 plus range, based on his track record, mindset, and pain tolerance. Moab 240 finished the 240-mile ultra through Utah's desert mountains in under 63 hours. Badwater 135, known as the toughest foot race on earth, Goggins has completed it multiple times, including a top 5 finish. And then his first ever ultra, 2005 San Diego 24-hour race, ran 101 miles in 18 hours with no formal ultra marathon training, just to qualify for Badwater. I think he would do wildly well because of his background in the SEALs and being so used to not sleeping.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't feel like I know enough about him to really have an answer. But yeah, I don't think age is that much of a factor either. I don't know how old he is now. I just assume he's in his 40s.
50s. I think
50s, yeah.
40s, 50s, which is why I'm like, do it. Do it while you can.
Yeah, right.
I just think it'd be sick to see him line up, because here's the thing. Cool. It would either humble him a ton and the internet would hop on it, or he would crush and people would be glued. If David Goggins is in the last 3 with Kim and Kendall, can you imagine? 2 22-year-olds and like a 50-year-old most popular Navy SEAL ever. I think it'd be wildly interesting.
I want to see Courtney DeWalter roll up on it as well.
That'd be
incredible. Yeah.
Hasn't Nick had her on his podcast?
Yeah. They know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make the call. That'd be so sick. Anyways, talking about your running and what you have done. New PR since we last talked. Yeah. You're newer to the sport in relation to just like a lot of people that I talk to. What do you feel like your potential is? And how do you balance, I know, those like PRs, those small wins, with having these large goals and maybe coming up just a little bit short?
Yeah, the last 3 have been coming up short, 1 to 4 minutes. And I've progressed much more minimally the last 3 or 4 races. When I spent 4 or 5 years trying to break 3, and finally did that with proper training and understanding nutrition finally. But from 257, I dropped to 248 the next race 4 months later. 248 down to 239, spring to fall. And then from 39, it's just been kind of a slow drop race to race. It's still every single peak race, I'm still getting a new PR. But the last one at McCurdy this past March, I ran 232.44 when I felt like I was in 229 shape. So I think I have it in me. It got really warm at the end of that race. That's what's happened the past 3 peak races for me. It's just gotten up like over 60 and sunny, which is tough for me. I tend to really struggle in the last 10K with those temps. But yeah, again, that's the marathon. Like when you start towing the line with what's possible for you and what your ceiling is, you need a lot of variables to line up. And it can be insanely frustrating to train for 4 or 5 months and then show up and one of those variables is off and you're just like, oh, well, let's go again 4 months from now. And looking at the timeline of what a lifetime PR is, that can be a bit daunting. But yeah, it's just like enjoying the process of getting fitter, which is what I love. I feel like I've been in kind of the same shape for probably 12 months now. But just finding a way to PR. But I think I want to take a stab at doing 100-mile weeks this summer into the fall to really move the needle. Yeah, seeing Jake Barraclaw ran to Japan. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube channel. You got to check it out.
Okay.
He's running like 150-mile weeks, like classic Japanese style. That's decades old. And he's gotten down to 214. He ran in Tokyo.
How old is he?
With his date, he's probably only 25.
Okay.
But he debuted in 238 2 years ago, I want to say. And now he's down to, he ran under 215 in Tokyo on a very warm day. On his best day on paper, he's a 210 guy now. And seeing him do that high mileage and just grind out getting that volume and that base built, along with my friend Chris Striegel from Life in Stride, like he just ran 222 off of a 229 PR.
Wow.
He was doing 120-mile weeks. And yeah, so I'm very interested in that. I think my body's finally ready to like get to that threshold. So we'll see what happens.
Pausing you, going back a question, and then I'll reply to what you just said. I asked ChatGPT about you and how long you'd last. It goes, there's no documented proof that Eric Floberg has ever competed in a last man standing race. If he did try one, given his marathon pedigree and growth mindset, he could likely go between 100 to 200 plus miles, contingent on his adaptation to ultra specific pacing, physical recovery, and mental stamina. I like those odds.
That's about what I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It said it gave me like 2 responses. It said estimated range likely 50 to 70 laps, 210 to 293 miles. Holy shit. In his first outing, an elite level result for his backyard debut, potential with focus prep. Here's where I'm just like, ChatGPT is going crazy. I love you, but this is not true. With focus prep, pacing mastery, and sleep management, he could go elite, maybe even into 100 plus laps territory in the future. No one's going 100 laps. Leave it to ChatGPT to make you feel good about yourself.
Hey,
we'll take it. In regards to what you were saying about marathons, what would you say to people out there who do have those disappointing performances after those large blocks of training? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like through a lot of those blocks, you've improved a lot in training and there are wins that you can take away from that training. But as greedy humans, we always want more and we want the result on race day, because ultimately that's why you're doing the training. Most people don't just train to train. So what would you say to people who are coming off a spring marathon with disappointment? They had a good block of training and it just didn't pan out on the day.
Yeah, I think the marathon is a game of time doing it, of doing it consistently over 10 years. And so really stretching out your mindset to not be so finite to what's right in front of you, but to know that if you're really going after it and you really care about it, that you should have a mindset that is a decade long, if not more. You know, whatever that goal benchmark might be. I know a lot of people are after their lifetime PR. If they're anywhere from age 20 to 40. So I think that's who I speak to primarily with what I make online. But even beyond that, I have a mentality of I definitely want to be, at least I see myself now wanting to run marathons all the way until I'm, essentially walking them, 70 years old if I can. And then those goals will shift and change. I think I kind of have a mentality that would be considered controversial. It's that in doing this for a while and recognizing how hard the second half of a marathon is, if you're riding the line of what your limits are, it's really easy to give up mentally the second half of that race. And as you start to fade, you might convince yourself that it's not your day or the variables aren't lined up. And what I would say to anyone struggling with that is just like, that's the barrier for so many people. It's not that, like, oh, it just wasn't my day. A lot of people have that, that phrase in their back pocket. But if you allow yourself to think that, you're going to allow yourself to write that on your Instagram post after the race because you made your goal public or whatever. But what would it look like if you actually challenged yourself in the second half of that to be like, no, I put 4 months in, like, I'm not going to give up on this. It's again, that mentality is like, I'm going to pass out on this road or die trying because I spent so much time and energy trying to hit this goal. This is the only opportunity I have. I don't care if the weather's bad. I'm going to do whatever I can to get the fastest time I can today, now, in these variables, in these circumstances. So once I unlocked that was when I ran my 2:48. I realized, like, it felt like it was a goal that was too far from me. It was 9 minutes faster than what I had run in the fall that previous year. And I realized, like, no, it's just that incremental 1 mile at a time, one moment at a time. And that phrase, that race, that phrase, if not now, when, just was echoing over and over. Like, the next time you get to do this is half a year from now. Do it now. Like, just go. So I think that really helps. I think Truett's phrase, "it's just pain," is legendary. Just the whole, like, yeah, this is it's such a small percentage of your life lived on a marathon course. Like, the amount of pain you endure is intense, and it's a sufferfest. It's just so small in the comparison of how many hours you live in your lifetime. It's like, this is what you've been training for. This is what you want. Do it now.
Why do you think, and it's a little trickier with you because you make money off of running a little bit and off of how you document it. But for the general public, right? You're talking about training 4 months for a marathon. People who run in general are obsessed with their performances, with the sport. From your outside perspective, why do you think people kind of make running like their second job, even if they don't get paid money to do so, and put so much time, energy, money, resources into running? And I say that not with a shade or ounce of shade, because that was me a lot of my life, and I have respect for it. I'm curious just to get another human's take on it.
I think a lot of people fall into the stereotype of, oh, if only I could play basketball again, if only I could play on that, high school football team again, if only I could run track. And so with that longing of people who are athletic and are competitive, there aren't many other circumstances or opportunities, at least in our culture or society, that allow you to be competitive that way outside of road racing. If it is, it's pretty niche, and it's not as well known or approachable as what a world major is, say, where you're running with 40 to 55,000 people at one time. So that in combination, like having something that's so accessible for competitiveness, along with running being this inherent sport of not necessarily talent, but time spent working on it, that combination is deadly for people who are motivated, who want to see themselves grow in a certain way. And so I think it speaks to those people specifically. Now, if we're looking at the entire world, it's less than 1% that run a marathon. If we're just going to use the marathon as an example, that 1% that do run it, I'd say at least a quarter to half of those people are that disciplined mindset, motivated, type of person who's super interested in seeing what's possible for themselves and want to be competitive with some kind of field. But anecdotally, it definitely leans more towards the personal side. Most people aren't running a world major and trying to get a certain type of placement in the field, but how can I progress on my time? I have an athlete right now who is in a master's category, up over 40 years old, and he's setting lifetime PRs right now that are like 8 to 10 years old, and he's just like off his rocker excited. And I think that's what's so special about it. It's just like there are so many opportunities for a very long period of your life where you can find physical accomplishments in it.
For you and your daily life and all that you do, husband, father, business owner, I hate the word content creator, but you do create content. Such a real quick aside before I ask that question. What's your take on like the words like influencer, content creator? Because I think I try to avoid them. People loop me in those things. And I know other influencers hate being named influencers because there's a stigma around it. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what we are, or they are.
Yeah, I don't use them either, because of the stigma, I would say. And I'm not going to be angry if someone calls me that, but I'm not going to call myself that first and foremost, because you know there's a stereotype of why those words have a negative association, because the way I produce things for the internet, and it's coming from a deeply artistic background. Like I really care about my filmmaking. I want it to be art. I want it to be special. I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be emotional. So when I pour that much time and energy into a craft like that, which might be perceived by the world as something really silly and not art because it's quote unquote content, I'm not going to label it that first and foremost. I'm going to, and going into the question you're about to ask about, life in general, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father, and then I'm those other things. But when it comes to the artistic side, like first and foremost, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an artist before I'm a YouTuber, a content creator, an influencer.
Off of you're starting to reply to my question because you stole it. You knew what it was before I even asked it. You intuitive man. Just like how do you structure your day? Because I think that's something I struggle with. Is I am never going to be a professional runner. I could get pretty fast, and I think it could help my platform. But at the end of the day, me doing more podcasts or pushing the running effect forward probably has the greatest gain on my life. Now, I think you have to sit down with yourself and ask, what do I truly want in life? And what do I truly want out of this chapter in life? And that could look like a little higher emphasis on fitness or running or gym or whatever it might be. But how do you balance all the things you're interested in while also, if at all, literally taking a breath and sitting on the couch with your kids and not being stressed about your miles or work or replying to emails?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's you have to let go of a certain amount of things. There's a visual I've seen often. It's like a triple Venn diagram with 3 circles, where it's like you can have a personal life, you could have a work life, or you could have or sleep. I think those are the 3 in that stereotypical visual. It's like you could do 2 really well, but one of them's going to have to suffer. It's that balance of, if I want to have a social life and a thriving business, I'm not going to sleep very much. If I want to, and take one away, I have 2 really great ones on the other side. My Venn diagram is more, I have like 6 of those things. And so what I have to recognize is I have to just have an open hand on some of them. And it's the constant struggle I have, because to your point earlier in the conversation is, if you want to be great at something, you really need to dial in and just like focus on being great at that thing. There's a great metaphor in running. If you want to be great at the marathon, you need to train for the marathon. If you want to be great at ultras, you need to do the volume and train for ultras. 1500 meter, like it's a direct correlation in the running world with distances. And so for me, it's first and foremost that one circle that I have is my family. It's just, that is the core first. And so my life is built around that. And really the only time I could say I was ever sacrificing that time was when I was building my business, with the foresight of knowing decades down the road, if I build this now and I'm successful at it now, I will have so much more time then. And this year in particular, specifically, it's been such a realization of that reality, that it's a beautiful time in life where I am now working 3 to 4 days a week from home. I'm home right now. I can just bop out. I could go have lunch with them. This morning, I spent the first half hour of my workday playing catch with the boys in the backyard. Like, there are all these nuances of what I've built and what I have now where I can just be that flexible. Now, it took 70 to 80 hour work weeks when I was 23 to 30, I would say. And it's not that I wasn't not present with my family during that time. I did the best I possibly could, but I did that knowing I was building a foundation to have what I have now. So what I have business-wise now is it's really kind of honed down to my 2 YouTube channels, coaching athletes, and that's about it. And I don't have any commercial stuff on the books as of today, as of right now. I don't have any client work on the books as of right now. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that because I have all these streams of revenue with online revenue makers where I can just kind of pick and choose whatever I want and build my own schedule. So that means working less. It means making less money. And I'm okay with that because I've done all the numbers. I'm satisfied with my output, and then I can go coach baseball and I can take a break to go take the boys to a Cubs game. We've gone to 3 this year. It's like, it's special in that regard. And it doesn't mean that I can't still be creative and make stuff. I could just do it at a much slower pace now, which, funny enough, is creating some of the most meaningful and quality things, which is really special as well.
I love that. I think it's a refreshing perspective because I think most people in life are always chasing more, but they're not chasing like better. And they want more money, more status, more whatever it might be. And I think a lot of people fall into the the if then trap, which is like, if I get this, then I'll be X. And it's refreshing to hear someone kind of speak on willingly making less, but for more important things. And that's where I want to be one day when I have a family. So wrapping this one up, since 2023, December, what would you say is the biggest way you've grown since then?
It's the conversation we just had. It's really realizing that I can let go of my work now. Like that's an okay thing to do because, I established this precedent of this many hours, this hard of work for years. And so to kind of unlearn that and change and shift the perspective, I think has been incredibly special. Really meaningful stuff in my marriage and just being available and having more time. Because it's on my main YouTube channel. I talk through year by year how much I was growing in income each year and breaking down my finances and my net worth. And it's really just kind of plateaued the past 2 to 3 years. And I've been perfectly okay with that. And so I think that kind of growth mindset and recognizing that my physical health is something that I deeply want to invest in now for the future. At the same time, being able to, use my filmmaking skills and art to communicate that has just been really special. So yeah, it's a lot of personal steps of growth and like having fun building a shed on the side of my house and boring suburban things.
I love it. Next race, what's coming up?
I will be running a 5K over the summer. Just decided that with Coach Jeff yesterday. I will probably be pacing one of my athletes at Grandma's Marathon in June. I was thinking about peak racing that, but after I paced my buddies at Bayshore and kind of crashed after half, I'm like, I should probably just chill for a bit. And then my next big peak race will be Chicago in the fall.
I love it, man. Outside of, here's the thing. I asked this question to a lot of professional athletes who their only thing in life is running. So it's kind of you get to hear about their life with you. You're very balanced, as people just saw. So we'll see where you go with this one. But outside of running, outside of the sport completely, what's one thing you're looking forward to in the coming months? Last question.
Yeah, it's a boring answer, but it's just family time. I've the past 3 weeks been setting up the infrastructure of our home to be better for family time and really like utilizing our spaces very well. So like I said, I built a shed. We cleared our garage. So now my home gym is like completely clear with no lawnmower in there anymore. And we move all the bikes out. And so we're just setting up our space. One of our neighbors gave us an old basketball hoop. So now we just want to kind of create this haven in our life to be home often and to celebrate time with each other and enjoy that time. Just being really intentional, not letting the house be chaotic and a mess all the time.
I love it. Floberg, next time I talk to you, I might talk to you before then, but hopefully you'll have run a real marathon that you deem real marathon. And appreciate the insights as always and the wisdom. And honestly, this one did not feel like a podcast at all. And I think those are some of the most refreshing conversations where it's just talking with friends. So thank you for having a conversation with me. Not necessarily a podcast. I apologize if I didn't ask you anything deep or meaningful, but I had a good time and hope you did as well. So everyone go check out Floberg everywhere.
Appreciate you, Tom. That was great.